Blake Lively really thought she was about to walk out of this entire disaster, looking like Hollywood's misunderstood golden girl. I mean, she really thought that. And honestly, see, the way this whole thing exploded in her face needs to be studied, because now people aren't just questioning Blake anymore, they're questioning Ryan Reynolds. Quietly, behind the scenes, while Blake got thrown straight into the fire to absorb every single hit, was Ryan protecting his own empire the entire time? Listen, once you hear how one crisis PR expert broke this down, the whole situation looks a lot more calculated than anyone wants to admit. Hey everyone, welcome back to Amelia Brown. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of Hollywood tea we live for, so stick around till the end because today's story is messy. Genuinely messy. We're diving into the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Justin Baldoni situation, but not the version you already know. This is the version crisis PR expert Molly McPhersonson just exposed, and trust me, once you hear the numbers, you're going to look at Ryan Reynolds completely differently. So apparently crisis PR expert Molly McPhersonson, and come on, this woman understands Hollywood spin better than almost anyone talking about this online right now, dropped a massive analysis. And according to Molly, the real story here isn't even Justin Baldoni anymore. It's Ryan Reynolds. But before we even get into Ryan, we gotta talk about Blake. Because girl, this comeback tour is not landing the way her team thought it would. Blake stepped out recently at this Fendi event in New York, looking like she was practically screaming, "I'm back, everybody still loves me." Tight designer outfit, giant confident smile, cameras everywhere, full Vogue-style coverage. You could feel the PR machine overheating trying to push this narrative that Blake is still that untouchable fashion queen everybody's obsessed with. But social media? Not buying it. Not even a little. And honestly, the comments were brutal. People were dragging her left and right. Every time Blake's face popped up, the comments turned into, "Team Justin Baldoni," "Read the room," and "Didn't she just quietly settle that lawsuit after proving absolutely nothing?" Because that's the thing nobody can erase here. Blake filed this massive lawsuit. The headlines went insane for months. Her team pushed non-stop coverage, painting the picture that Justin Baldoni's career was finished. And then, settlement. Quietly. No dramatic victory lap, no massive public proof, no triumphant Hollywood moment. And people noticed. That's exactly why this fashion comeback era feels so awkward to so many people. Every time Blake steps outside smiling for cameras, it drags the lawsuit right back into the conversation. I mean, the PR strategy meant to bury the controversy is literally the thing keeping it alive. And this is exactly where Molly comes in and blows the whole thing wide open. Apparently, she went deep into professional media tracking data, real sentiment analysis, not guesswork, and analyzed over 22,000 articles connected to this mess. News coverage, podcasts, online media, social chatter, all of it. And the numbers? Shocking. Out of Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin Baldoni, Blake had the worst public sentiment of all three. Let that sink in for a second. The person who filed the lawsuit somehow came out looking worse publicly than the person she actually sued. From a PR standpoint, that's insane. Molly basically said this wasn't a strategy succeeding. It was a strategy collapsing in real time, right in front of everybody. And then she dropped the detail that made the whole internet pause. She said when you analyze the media word clouds for each celebrity, Ryan Reynolds barely has the lawsuit attached to his name at all. His coverage is still mostly Deadpool, Wrexham, Hugh Jackman jokes, funny interviews, soccer club owner, charming celebrity husband, successful businessman. Means Blake's entire media identity collapsed into one loop. Lawsuit, lawsuit, lawsuit drama, controversy, backlash, settlement, failure, same marriage, same scandal, but two completely different levels of damage. And listen, that's exactly where Molly's theory starts getting messy. Because according to her, somebody in that relationship was being protected, and somebody else was being sacrificed to absorb all the fallout. Once Molly said that, people immediately started rewatching Ryan's behavior through a completely different lens. Because think about it, Ryan absolutely inserted himself into this situation whenever it benefited him. Leaked emails allegedly showed him heavily involved behind the scenes. Reports claimed he pressured agencies. Multiple stories suggested he was influencing decisions the whole time. He wasn't just some quiet, innocent husband standing in the background. Ryan was deeply, actively connected to this chaos from the start. But then, notice something strange. Whenever the actual backlash intensified, whenever public anger started boiling over, whenever Blake was getting dragged online day after day, Ryan somehow always felt distant. even at the key moments. And Molly pointed to what she thinks is the biggest clue of all, Met Gala week. Because apparently the settlement announcement dropped the exact same day as all the Met Gala coverage. Blake was out there doing interviews, talking about women's empowerment, standing strong, refusing to be silenced, all that carefully crafted PR language. But Ryan Reynolds? Nowhere. Not beside her. Not publicly supporting her. Not standing next to his own wife during arguably the biggest reputational crisis of her career. And Molly said that told her everything. Because in Hollywood PR, appearances matter, timing matters, optics matter. Ryan staying completely absent while Blake carried the entire public embarrassment alone, that raised a lot of eyebrows. Especially because earlier in the controversy, Ryan had zero problem being visible. The second the narrative turned toxic though, Blake was left standing there completely by herself, while Ryan's image stayed weirdly, conveniently protected. Once you look at this whole thing through that lens, it stops feeling like a simple celebrity lawsuit and starts feeling like a calculated survival strategy inside a Hollywood marriage. Because Molly made another point people cannot stop repeating. She said there's a massive difference between publicity and crisis management, and apparently Blake's team confused the two in the worst possible way. Her explanation was brutal, honestly. She basically said, if your only goal is getting headlines, attention, and non-stop coverage, congratulations, you're doing publicity. But if your actual goal is protecting somebody's long-term reputation once the storm has passed, that's crisis management. Completely different game. And according to Molly, Blake's camp kept chasing visibility instead of protecting Blake's image. And that's exactly why every single move started backfiring. I mean, think about it. Every article about Blake stepping out in designer outfits, every Vogue feature, every glamorous paparazzi moment, every she's reclaiming her confidence headline, all it did was remind the internet about the lawsuit all over again. The audience never got the chance to move on. The controversy stayed glued to her face 24/7. Meanwhile, Ryan escaped almost all of that association completely. Deadpool promotion kept running. Sports ownership stories kept running. Funny, charming interview Ryan kept running like nothing happened. It's almost like his machine quietly kept moving, while Blake became the emotional shield absorbing all the public damage. And Molly's theory gets even messier when she starts talking about Leslie Sloan. For people who don't follow celebrity PR politics, Leslie Sloan is a massive Hollywood publicist, a genuine power player, and apparently she has a documented history of quietly distancing herself from celebrities right before their controversies fully explode. Molly brought up names like Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan, saying Leslie stepped away the moment things started spiraling publicly. But with Blake, Leslie stayed, and that immediately made people ask why. Molly's answer was simple: Ryan Reynolds. Because listen, Ryan is the bigger Hollywood asset by a mile. His career is gigantic. His business empire is gigantic. His public liability is gigantic. His earning power is gigantic. Protecting Ryan means protecting the entire empire built around him. And suddenly people started connecting every dot, because when you break down the strategy that played out, Blake was constantly pushed in front of every camera, while Ryan remained selectively visible only when it directly benefited him. Blake became the emotional face of the controversy. Blake became the target. Blake became the meme. Blake became the backlash magnet. And Ryan? Ryan just stayed Ryan Reynolds. Untouched, unbothered, completely separate from the chaos surrounding his own wife. Andy from Popcorn Planet started asking the question everybody else was too scared to say out loud. Was Blake basically sacrificed to protect the Reynolds brand? Now, before anyone starts pretending Blake is some completely innocent victim here. No, absolutely not. Blake made a ton of her own mistakes. A ton. People still haven't forgotten the interviews where she came across rude and dismissive. They haven't forgotten the aggressive early PR campaign. They haven't forgotten how differently this lawsuit was framed at the start compared to how it actually ended. They haven't forgotten how overconfident her team acted early on. So no, nobody's calling Blake some helpless bystander here. But what people are increasingly saying is that maybe Blake and Ryan were never actually operating equally behind the scenes. Because the more this story unfolds, the more Ryan starts looking like the master strategist quietly protecting his own future first. And honestly, Hollywood relationships do this constantly. People forget celebrity marriages are also business partnerships. Reputation is money. Public image is money. Endorsements are money. Movies are money. Ryan Reynolds is arguably one of the most marketable men in entertainment right now. Brands love him, studios love him, sports audiences love him, investors love him. So if somebody had to survive this publicly between the two of them, it was probably always going to be Ryan. Which brings us to the truly uncomfortable question nobody wants to say out loud. What if Blake agreed to this arrangement herself? Andy raised something genuinely interesting too. Maybe Blake understood, better than anyone, that Ryan's reputation needed protecting more than her own did. Maybe she knew his earning power was the foundation holding their entire empire together. Maybe she genuinely believed she could weather the backlash temporarily, while Ryan stayed protected enough to keep everything financially stable. And honestly, that wouldn't even shock anyone familiar with how Hollywood couples operate. One person absorbs the hit, the other preserves the brand. That's not new. But here's the problem. Blake's reputation damage became far worse than anyone anticipated. Way worse. This wasn't just a temporary internet gossip cycle. This turned into months and months of relentless backlash, where audiences genuinely started turning against her on a personal, emotional level. And that's dangerous territory in Hollywood, because once people decide they personally dislike you, reversing that is incredibly hard. That's exactly why this comeback tour feels so desperate to so many people. Because Blake's team is trying to fast-forward everyone back into loving her before the audience has even emotionally moved on from the scandal. But listen, audiences don't work like that anymore. People smell a manufactured PR campaign instantly now, which is exactly why every paparazzi walk, every smiling photo, every carefully staged fashion appearance keeps getting torn apart online instead of celebrated. The audience doesn't feel like they're watching something authentic. They feel like they're being managed. And that might honestly be the biggest mistake of all, because the internet forgives messy celebrities all the time. What people can't stand is feeling handled. So what do you guys think? Was Blake genuinely sacrificed to protect Ryan's empire? Or is this whole theory reading way too much into normal Hollywood PR chaos? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. I genuinely want to hear both sides. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to Amelia Brown, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. See you in the next video.